Really important for people to understand. Think of every war we've been in. We have never, ever dealt with an adversary that had this particular capacity. When we were attacked on 9/11, was by al-Qaeda that had bases in Afghanistan, but the Afghani government had very, very limited capacity. Think about the other attacks that we have suffered or been suffered in this country, again, by terrorist movements and organizations. This is a full-blown government of a major modern nation. And by the way, many of its military leadership were trained by the Soviet Union and then by Russia. Suleimani himself was trained by Russia. You're talking about some of the most sophisticated military capacity on earth, and the nation that was our central adversary for decades trained the military of this country that we now may be facing. I'm not saying that to underestimate the power of the United States and our military. Our military is the finest in the world. I'm trying to express that we're dealing with a different reality and one that we've never experienced before because it will not be expressed in conventional terms. This is the point about, and John can speak to it much better than me, the asymmetrical warfare concept. You're talking about a nation with a government and a huge military that then works with highly organized terrorist organizations around the world that they sponsor, fund, and provide arms to, and then subcontracts with other local criminal organizations. We've never dealt with this before, and we should be very sober about that fact. Yeah.
For Commissioner Miller, just to clarify, police department was aware of the strike before the strike or afterwards?
After.
And also, can you talk about how many sleeper agents there might be out there? I believe several years ago you might have thrown out a number, but I don't quite recollect.
Well, there's the cases we just described, and then there are prior cases where that didn't result in arrest, but resulted in the expulsion of employees of the Iranian government who were observed conducting what appeared to be pre-operational surveillance against infrastructure.
And then we'll go to this side.
So, just to follow up on that, are you guys concerned that there's so many diplomatic members of the Iranian government based here in New York?
We don't take it lightly.
Yeah, certainly, Jonathan, that's something that comes up in the plans. But again, that is not a new reality either. This is New York City, a city that we host the UN. We have diplomatic missions all over, and those are part of our ongoing counterterrorism efforts.
Sure.
Does NYPD have personnel on the ground abroad or in this part of the world? And if so, what role are they playing in this response?
So we have 14 foreign posts, including places such as the United Arab Emirates, Israel, Qatar, Jordan, and we have received reporting from overnight from all of those posts that add context and intelligence value to this. That's really what those posts are for, to give us additional information, sharper perspectives, and decision advantage in instances such as this.
Yes.
Just to clarify, in terms of security measures, what will you be doing specifically, differently or in additionally to the heightened security measures that you already started last week after the hate crimes?
Again, we're dealing with a whole new reality. I think it starts with the focus that we've had historically on the most prominent sites in New York City will certainly deepen. But I'm saying, with these experts around me, I'm just trying to put it into common sense terms. You're going to see more officers and you're going to see more unpredictability, just movements as needed to address anything that we're receiving in the way of intelligence. Always make a point to reiterate there's no credible and specific threat now. If there ever was one, we're going to tell the people of the city that. But again, I think it is what has been a proven formula for the NYPD is a lot of personnel and the ability to move them quickly and in an unpredictable fashion. That's why we created the Critical Response Command a few years ago, to give us that ability to do that. Yeah.
You talk a lot about prominent targets, Mayor. What specifically do you say to New Yorkers, though, who are not frequenting Times Square or the World Trade Center site? What do you say to folks just out in 5 boroughs about their security?
I'd say to everyone, go on with your lives, again, as New Yorkers have always done. Go on with your lives, never be intimidated by the threat of terror, but be vigilant. because, John just referred to situations where there was surveillance of sites underway. If you see someone doing something that causes you a concern, as the commissioner said, call it in. It will be checked out. It never hurts to call something in. You don't know how these things develop. And we're in the great unknown here, and we have to be honest about it. We've never confronted this particular challenge. But I think anyone at any time might see or hear something that could help us. We need that vigilance. Otherwise, go about your lives knowing that the finest police force in America is protecting you.
You also mentioned you want congressional action. Can you be more specific? What would you like?
I think the Congress, representing all of the people, is in a much better position to evaluate what it would mean to actually go to a full-blown war with Iran. And right now, we are right on the precipice of a full-blown war. The Constitution's clear about it. The War Powers Act is clear about it. That only the Congress can authorize war. What presidents have done, and by the way, both Democrats and Republicans have taken liberties and initiated different types of military action, always claiming it wasn't the same as needing the full authorization of the Congress. This is unlike anything we've seen in decades. This is, again, a potential war with a major military with a global terrorist network that it sponsors. Should not be done lightly, to say the least. And there's no evidence right now. We've heard nothing from Washington to suggest there's a cognizance of the ramifications of what's happened here and what it could mean for people right here. I'm talking about protecting our people here in this country and protecting our troops. So the only place that kind of deliberation can happen is in the Congress. And by the way, there's history of the Congress making that decision. And that causes the people to have a lot more faith in the decision if it's made by the Congress. But it cannot be a march to war leaving out our elected representatives. Yes.
How many officers are assigned to counterterrorism at this point?
You're basically a couple of thousand. It's larger than any counterterrorism force in the United States.